Effectively harnessing the full spectrum of resources within Texas's innovation portfolio is vital to developing cutting-edge solutions that enhance resilience and security. In this panel, we'll examine the pivotal role of Texas's innovation ecosystem in positioning the state as a global leader in technological innovation, cybersecurity, and critical infrastructure protection. I'd like to invite our panel up, and as they come up, I'll introduce them. Thank you to Mr. Charles Wooden, our panel moderator. Charles serves as the current CEO of Geekdom, a San Antonio-based innovation hub that fosters a vibrant community focused on technology startups and creative projects, helping individuals and businesses grow and innovate. Charles has a strong background in engineering, technology, and has served in the U.S. Air Force for 8 years as an airborne cryptologic language analyst. Thank you, Charles. Mr. Adam Hamilton. Mr. Adam Hamilton has served as the president and CEO of Southwest Research Institute since 2014. SWRI is one of the nation's largest not-for-profit applied research organizations. SWRI provides solutions for many of humankind's most difficult challenges, encountered in environments from deep sea to deep space and practically everywhere in between. Adam's multidisciplinary technical expertise includes engineering, chemistry, biochemistry, and risk assessment. Thank you, Adam, for joining the panel. Mr. Charles Chuck Bondurant, currently serves as the Director of Critical Infrastructure and Risk Management for the Public Utility Commission of Texas, which we refer to as PUC. As a state agency, PUC is responsible for regulating the state's electric, water, and telecommunications utilities. Its primary role is to ensure reliable service, protect consumer interests, and promote competition within these industries. Prior to his service with PUC, Charles served for over 22 years in the U.S. Army. Thank you, Chuck. Last but not least, Mr. Jeffrey Urbach is the Emerging Technology Team's Product and Partnerships Lead for the City of San Antonio. In his role, Jeffrey collaborates across the city to identify business challenges and evaluate next-gen technology solutions to meet those needs. Jeffrey also leads the Smart SA Partnership, a collaboration among 9 major public sector agencies dedicated to sharing data and providing best-in-class resident services. Prior to coming to San Antonio, Jeffrey managed smart city partnerships in New York and engaged in legislative and regulatory matters in DC. Thank you.
Before we begin, I can't tell. So presently stored on all devices, 180.
Wow. Well, thank you, Dr. Amy. Thank you, everybody, for having us here today. As you just heard, we have an amazing panel. I'm going to give each one of the panelists just one quick 1 to 2 minutes to give you a quick understanding of what they do just outside of their biographies that you just heard. So if we don't mind, we'll just go ahead and jump right in. Chuck, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Again, Chuck Bondurant with PUC. Our main mission for my division is cyber physical security for electric utilities, not so much water, but electric, and also the emergency management portion. So I don't know how many of y'all were here during Winter Storm Uri, which is something that we don't like to talk about very much. One of our key roles was in the State Operations Center, where we were the liaison between the utilities and the emergency management folks. So we did the coordination to make sure that they were getting the resources that they needed to get back up in operation.
Great. Jeff, you want to go next?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Urbach, Product and Partnerships Lead on the Emerging Technology Team within the City of San Antonio. For those who are unaware, San Antonio is the 7th largest city in the country, fastest growing overall. And we're at a critical inflection point, balancing this expansive growth while there are persistent issues of high poverty and poor health outcomes. Within the context of the City of San Antonio's 15,000 employees and over 40+ departments, our team plays a unique role. We help the city anticipate, evaluate, and prepare for the impacts of emerging technology. And we do so through research, rapid prototyping, and impact assessments about how to safely integrate those emerging technologies into municipal operations. I also manage, as Nicole mentioned, the Smart SA partnership, which is a collaboration between 9 of the largest public agencies to ultimately build a more efficient, connected, and sustainable city. I'm honored to be a part of this panel this morning with such distinguished leaders in our community, and thank Taylor Amy and UTSA for hosting such an important conversation this morning. So really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Adam, you want to take us home?
Sure, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Hamilton. I'm the president and CEO of Southwest Research Institute. If you don't know Southwest Research Institute, we are a 501c3, not-for-profit, applied, independent, so we have no affiliation with the university or a company, R&D organization. So there's very few of those in the country, or in fact in the world. So it's an honor to be at Southwest, and it's an organic San Antonio organization founded in 1947. So we have a large campus here in San Antonio, about 1,500 acres with 260 buildings and research laboratories on our campus. And I love that expression, deep sea to deep space, maybe because I made it up, but it really does represent what we do, from building the deepest diving submarine in the world to running multiple NASA missions, including the one that's called New Horizons that flew by Pluto in 2015, Ultima Thule, or what's called Aerocosmos now, in 2019. And now that spacecraft will be the third man-made object to leave our solar system by crossing the solar system's barrier. So it's truly deep sea to deep space and practically everything in between, with a heavy emphasis on defense, transportation, communication, IT, pharmaceuticals, just about the whole gamut. So it's a real honor to be representing that organization here today with you.
Awesome. Well, as you see, amazing panel today. We're going to be jumping in really quickly. We have about 30 minutes, and I've got about 5 or 6 questions that I'm going to try to address, so I don't want to waste any more time. But really quickly, I do want to point out the kind of theme as we discuss this today is that innovation is somewhat counterintuitive to the idea of security. The more innovative you are, the more or the less secure you can become. And so with that thought in mind, I would love to, from each one of your perspectives and where you're coming from, how do you balance that? How do you balance being innovative so that we can be on the cutting edge of these new technologies and advancement, keeping ahead of all these different competitors that are out there, but while remaining secure so we're not opening ourselves up for threat? And I would love to hear from each one of you. Go ahead and jump in. You want to start, Adam?
Sure. Yeah, we really believe that security and innovation can go hand in hand, but you really have to start with culture. You have to make people aware of the risks that are out there, and also introduce resources to them that they can use to help protect any IP they develop, particularly IP that has some security-related impacts. When I came to the Institute as a CEO 10 years ago, I came from the Institute's subsidiary, which is a for-profit entity. So we thought IP, rush to IP. At the Institute, I tried to bring that same culture, and I was quickly corrected by 3,000 staff members, probably, that no, we're not about selling IP. We don't sell IP. We use IP as a strength for business development to advance the technology solutions we can deliver. So it really is about that culture of not rushing to produce IP that can be monetized some way. That's easy for me to say, I know, in a nonprofit organization. But it really does take beginning with how do you protect the information and the knowledge that we're going to generate in our organization. So it starts early, and you have to revisit it periodically. Make sure you have a multidisciplinary team, a multicultural team. And those things, I think, really help us not have as many blind spots as we might otherwise have. So building those teams, inculcating a good culture, and then also continue to retrain and reconfirm and verify that we're doing everything as we should be.
Great, thank you. Jeffrey?
That's a great question, Charles. Within the city, we embed security into innovation from day one through structured governance. we built out governance processes specific for emerging technology. And I assume a lot of you in the audience today are hearing another governance process within government that's more bureaucracy, but we really view that as cooperation. So we bring together 9 different departments up front to have visibility into all of our projects. So think HR, communications, IT, legal, finance. I spent time on the private side, and I couldn't tell you how many projects were killed at the 11th hour because a stakeholder wasn't brought to the forefront early on. So we make sure that we have all the necessary stakeholders involved at the onset of our projects. They're aware throughout the course of our projects, and then we present impact reports at the end of our projects where we're assessing risks. We're making recommendations on business improvements. We're outlining potential for cost savings and efficiency gains. And we have IT security that's embedded throughout our process. We have mandatory cybersecurity assessments that every single vendor has to complete. And we rarely test on the city's network to mitigate those risks. And a lot of you might also be hearing this and saying that, well, shouldn't this exist in every city? Well, it doesn't. It's actually very unique. And we were honored to receive an award just this past year, a Smart 20 award, for our efforts building out governance specifically for innovation and emerging technology.
Love it. Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, so as a regulator, obviously, we don't like innovation. That's not true. I think we've shifted our mindset, at least within the Public Utility Commission, when some of our investor-owned utilities will come with rate cases or resiliency plans. You know, we like it to be black and white. You have to check these boxes to get approval. But now we've shifted more to a risk-based type of mindset to where, you know, the utilities will bring their plans. So we look at that, explain that to us. What are the risks that you're trying to mitigate with these plans? So instead of trying to stifle, you know, some of the things that they're doing, some of the projects that they're doing, we want to see how is this going to lead to resiliency on the grid, which is a huge part undertaken for our utilities, and how is this going to best mitigate those risks that you've identified, not that we're putting on you, but the risks that you've identified because you know your system better than we do. But we want to make sure that it's addressing those risks and it's still going to be affordable for your customers.
That makes sense. So kind of leveraging their own understanding of what they do to really point out those risks and then work with them to fix them. The next question I want to dive into is around AI. We all have, you know, seen so much of innovation in that over these last couple of years. I'll just say really quickly from my point of view as leading geekdom and being, you know, the kind of shepherd of the next generation of entrepreneurs in San Antonio, AI has run amok among every new idea that comes out. It is being leveraged in every aspect of what they do. And as I think about the 3 institutes that you all represent here, I really am kind of curious. There is no unified AI policy that we can point to for government or for, you know, companies to be able to say that, hey, if you abide by this, you can work within these confines. With that lack of policy in today's day and age, how are each one of you approaching it from your own organizations? But on top of that, as you're partnering with other organizations, do you guys help work with them to outline those AI policies, or do you have some kind of conversation around that? I know it's kind of a broad question, but I realize AI is everywhere. So how are you all addressing it?
I can start, Charles. So we're being proactive in the city of San Antonio in developing our own AI frameworks rather than just waiting for the risks of AI to impact us. We follow NIST AI risk management framework to make sure that we're aligned from a national security standpoint. We have instituted an AI acceptable use policy for all of our employees. We're one of the founding members of the GovAI Coalition, which is comprised of over 350 public agencies that's crowdsourcing best practices related to AI. In fact, my boss, Emily Royal, is one of the board members of the GovAI Coalition and a true leader in this space. Also, we evaluate the risk of AI systems. As you can imagine, our portfolio of projects is increasingly dominated by AI. We are evaluating AI translation and interpretation tools, AI for contract management. The list goes on, but what we're able to do is we can evaluate bias, transparency, risk, and provide those recommendations so that the city can prepare for and ultimately take advantage of a lot of these powerful tools in a secure way. And then finally, I just want to mention that we are monitoring closely and we're preparing for compliance of HB 1709, which is currently in the Texas legislature, that would lay out some AI governance requirements for municipalities.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Adam or Chuck?
Yeah, I was going to say, Jeff, we need you on our Texas Cybersecurity Council where we discuss these same topics. You know, we've been going kind of round and round on what does a good AI policy look like for the state and state agencies. It's a tough uphill climb. There are some state agencies that, you know, they barely use computers, so they have no skin in the game. And then there's other state agencies that the use of AI would greatly enhance a lot of their workload. So being a state agency, we take our orders from the tower. We still kind of collaborate with the policy decisions, the policy making behind that. Just like you mentioned, the bill that's in place now, we've kind of seen a couple of drafts on that, had a little input, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think we're all waiting on pins and needles to see where that policy, if it ends up, you know, how it ends up impacting us all. Adam, you want to jump in?
Sure. It is a very difficult question, or it's a challenge for us, I think for most people, but when you've got 3,000 very curious scientists and engineers, and there's a new tool out there that they can play with, it's great. It can produce a lot of great results, but we have to be very careful. So our approach was at first to really cut off access to the AI systems that are publicly available. And then we built our own system that was informed by other platforms that were out there, but it wouldn't export data. It wouldn't share our data back out with the others that could use that same system. So I think that's been very helpful. We want to be able to keep up. So we have teams that are also looking at data that's out on other systems and trying to make sure that that's data is appropriate for us to import and to merge with our data. And we try to use our own internal queries to continue to build our database. You know, it's really interesting to see space scientists talking about plasma physics. Some queries are, where are the best soft tacos in San Antonio? So that was me, but
I'm curious what the answer was, but we'll find out later.
So in my opinion is you have to put up some guardrails and some safeguards, but we have to continually train our people and talk to them about the real threats that are present and that we're trying to protect our clients from, the Institute from, and our scientists and engineers from, to really underscore the importance of using AI in a professional manner and not sharing everything that we know by putting it in queries that are used.
That makes sense. I'm going to jump to our next series of questions, which are going to be centered around each one of the individuals and their roles that they play. First one's for you, Chuck. The energy grid is one of Texas's most critical assets, yet it remains a top security concern. From your perspective at PUC, what are the biggest vulnerabilities we need to address, especially with the need to grow capacity as quickly as we're seeing the need of late?
Great question. And I won't speak on vulnerabilities, but I'll speak on what keeps me up at night. And that's the ever-growing demand on the Texas grid. We're just talking about AI. You know, we have AI farms that are on the books, be located within, you know, Texas. You know, we're encouraging a lot of data centers and a lot of huge load growth. So the thing that keeps me up is not being able to have the supply available for that growing demand. Um, and that's just the businesses that are coming. That's not even counting the population growth that we're experiencing. So there are a lot of levers that we have, that ERCOT has to try to balance that and maintain it. And as we're growing and encouraging more generation, we're also still trying to balance that cost to keep it affordable for the consumers. At the end of the day, that's one of our mandates.
Yep.
And with that increase in generation and new types of generation are security vulnerabilities and threats that come along with that. We have a partnership with our utilities. We have an outreach program where we bring together utilities, our investor-owned utilities, our municipal, cooperative utilities, and we bring them together in a room, and we take off our regulatory hat and we say, hey guys, what are the threats out there that you're seeing?
Mm-hmm.
We have this utility here that may only have one person that's doing the job of security manager, IT, help desk, operations manager, janitor. All of these jobs are with one individual. How can we best help them to make sure that they're as protected as can be? Sometimes the answer is their equipment may not be as connected as some others, or it's connected and they didn't realize how connected they were. So we need to send some help and support and some mentorship on getting them secure, because yes, we're the electric utility regulator. Obviously, we're going to kind of favor that. But if you look at the importance of energy, that's pretty much the lifeline of all the other critical infrastructure.
Yep.
So securing that is extremely important.
Yeah, it's not only the lifeline of critical infrastructure, but it's also the lifeline of future innovation. Without that energy, what are they going to be able to do? So totally understand that. Thank you for that perspective. Next, we'll jump to Adam. With Southwest Research Institute being the forefront of the cutting edge R&D, how do you see research institutions playing a larger role in shaping the future of secure innovation? And how can we ensure that these advancements translate into real world impact at scale?
That's a great question. And there are a lot of organizations that are in nonprofit R&D at the advanced level. And fortunately, we meet. The CEOs meet 4 times a year, 1 time in person and 3 times a year by phone. We typically talk about security and protection of intellectual property and other things like that at our meetings. I'll admit the last 2 meetings have been, the last meeting has been more focused on current affairs, which has been a little overwhelming for us. And we have a meeting coming up next month. We'll try to bring security back into it. So we try to share best practices. And what we do is we have a lot of different engineering disciplines. And so we actually have our domains. We have 10 different or 11 different domains. So we try to gain some level of protection that way. And then I always like to go back to culture. Really what we have to do is to educate our people, and senior leadership has to demonstrate the acumen needed to actually convey the importance of security and protection of our digital assets to the greatest extent possible. So we do that. I also work with our teams just to demonstrate the executive level expectation of security by doing our own inspections of digital assets and our security programs. So it's really wonderful. I get to learn more about what we're doing to protect different systems, but at the same time, I get to kind of do an audit of what we're doing to ensure that they have everything that they need to protect it. But we've got to build it in from the start. When people show up to the Institute, they go through new employee orientation. From that point on, we're always talking about how do we be safe and secure and responsible with the R&D and the results from this R&D that we provide for the appropriate people at the appropriate time and not
I love the point that you're making, Adam, around culture and how important it is to get that down to the lowest levels, specifically when it comes to kind of that balance of innovation and security with an R&D institution. You got to have that balance. So I love that answer. Thank you. Next, we've got Jeffrey. As San Antonio continues to grow, not only population, but also as a hub for emerging technologies, how does a city foster innovation through partnerships at the municipal level? And what lessons can other regions learn from San Antonio's approach?
Sure, Charles. Mentioned Smart SA a few times at this point, and truly believe that it's a model for cross-agency collaboration. It was established by San Antonio City Council in 2018 to facilitate data sharing and the protocols around sharing that data, which resulted in an interlocal data sharing agreement that was signed between 9 of the largest public agencies in this region, including UTSA, CPS Energy, VIA, SAWS, the city, of course, among others. And it's a huge deal. It's actually incredibly unique. Not many regions have the largest agencies bound by a data sharing agreement. What used to take upwards of a year to get data sets from one another can now be done almost instantaneously. And so we've focused on continuing to build that partnership based on best-in-class models around the country. And we're exploring moving forward on citywide innovation projects that leverage this data sharing agreement. So right here in this incredible facility, we have an incredible team of researchers from UTSA, Doctors Paul Rad and Crystal Castillo, that are developing a citywide digital twin that has no limit on the types of applications that we can bring into it. But we're starting with use cases through the Smart SA partnership. So they've developed flood prediction and modeling capabilities through that digital twin. They are looking at urban heat island mitigation and identification through that digital twin, among others. It's incredible work. Orlando Economic Partnership has developed a digital twin that they're using to bring in CEOs and show them available land and show them demographics of an area and the potential workforce that they can bring to their positions. And it's been an incredible recruitment tool for Orlando from an economic development perspective. So that's number one, is citywide innovation projects. Number two is we're looking to grow our membership. We want to represent not just the largest public agencies, but this should be the entire innovation footprint of our community. So we've recently extended membership, affiliate members to those leading organizations, such as Southwest Research Institute, such as Port San Antonio, such as Greater SATX, to bring them to the table to help us think through and plan for innovation for our community moving forward. Third, we're exploring designing a test bed that we can have startups from geekdom be able to come test on city infrastructure that's not on our network, so that we can have researchers at SWERI be able to do the same, and vendors that want to work with the city not have to go through such a bureaucratic process to be able to test and demonstrate what they could bring to the table from a value perspective. There's been a successful model that the state of Virginia has taken on to do exactly this. And then finally, looking to coordinate grant activities within our region so that we can start taking advantage of major opportunities, bringing all of the right stakeholders into the fold early, and that we start punching above our weight as the 7th largest city in the country. This largely aligns with the Bigger, Better Texas plan that was recently released by Governor Abbott to leverage regional opportunities to drive economic prosperity. And we hope that the state will support work to spur regional innovation of this type. And we believe that San Antonio can serve as the national model to do so.
Love it. And I'll tell you, as somebody who's worked really closely with your department, you guys are leading the edge. I really appreciate the work that you do with the city, remaining innovative in an area where government is not typically thought of. So you guys are doing great work. One question I wanted to make sure that we touched on during this was, if there was one key investment, whether in policy, technology, or workforce development, that Texas must make in the next 5 years to solidify its leadership in security and innovation, what would it be? And I realize that's a pretty broad and general question, but I'd love kind of an optimistic outlook from each one of your perspectives on what it is that we could do as a state to kind of remain in this great position that we have, but while being innovative and secure.
For me, the answer to that is easy. We need more generation
Yeah.
to move into Texas. Not only more generation, but utilizing what we have in a smarter way. I'm not sure how many of y'all are familiar with the aggregated distributed energy resources where some of our companies are looking at those, bring it down to the individual homeowner level, where if you have solar panels and backup batteries, well, there's an opportunity for you to be able to participate in the grid. And during those constrained times, if you have extra energy available, you can also give back to the grid to relieve some of that congestion. There are some that are taking advantage of that. Some have never heard of that. Some are in areas where their utility aren't participating. But I think as that program grows, there's a huge opportunity to relieve some of the congestion that goes on at the distribution level of our electric grid, which in turn will help those larger consumers of energy not be such a draw on the grid.
Yeah, because I think as we look at increasing that capacity, we're talking years before we get these new facilities online to get there. So what innovative ways can we stay ahead of that? Love that. Jeffrey or Adam?
I laugh at the framing around optimistic. I'm not sure I'm going to strike an optimistic tone here, Charles, but I will try. Plain and simple, we need to get folks skilled to get into STEM opportunities. There was a report by the Chamber of Commerce that shows that our community, in terms of AI job loss risk, is ranked number 6. That could impact 14% of our workforce, mostly in service industries, of which nearly a quarter of our workforce in the San Antonio, New Braunfels region is service industry related. So it's going to require a lot of cooperation, particularly with the private sector. Referring back to the Bigger, Better Texas plan, again, there is a focus on aligning educational needs with industry needs, and that's critical. So I'm really glad to see the state making that a focus. There's been a model in the greater Phoenix area. My friend Dom over there works for the Institute for Digital Inclusion Acceleration, and they're working really close with the private sector to develop industry and dual degree certifications for high school students so that they can get into these STEM opportunities once they graduate from high school. So, in a nutshell, our workforce is truly critical to the success of our region, to the success of our state, and we're all going to need to double down in those efforts over the next few years.
Yeah, it sounds like an opportunity where we really need to put a lot of resources. So I couldn't agree more. Adam, you want to take us on home?
I'd like to add to what Jeffrey said. Very good comments. Both of you are, it's really good to know you're in the state. We're all in this together. But I think the first challenge that we have at least is workforce development, just like you had said. And we really have to reach deeper into our community and be more inclusive. We are in a tremendous location here in South Texas, but we've really not tapped into Mexico very much. We have some, but we would want to encourage that. And in fact, many of us in San Antonio are. But to provide the development process for students in our own communities now and in communities throughout our region, so that they're prepared to take on some of these very difficult jobs that we all have available now and hopefully will have available in the future. Second thing I would say is protection of resources. We have to be very careful. We're still in extended drought, so each and every one of us and our organizations needs to know how to do things and be proactive. And resource conservation ties into energy as well. And the third thing I think is partly on all of us is PR. We need people to think about Texas as the place to come for these resources. Maybe not in the history of many of you, but in my history, Texas hasn't always been thought of that way. It's kind of the Wild West and things like that, East Coast, West Coast, where all the real technology development happens. No longer true. And we really need to push to make that known.
Yeah, I agree. I think messaging is so important, and we are at a unique precipice regionally to play a large role in that. So appreciate each one of you. I think we threaded the needle perfectly, time and everything. Thank you so much for everything that you guys did and answering the questions. Can I get a huge round of applause for the panel today, please?